this Monday, September the 9th, 2024, regular board meeting of the Anderson District 3 School Board to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and if y'all will look over my left shoulder here. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Mr. Balknight, will you open us in prayer, please?
Absolutely. Let's pray. God, you're amazing. You're awesome, God. We love you. We thank you for being so good to us, God. We ask for your wisdom, for your discernment, for your direction, God, here at Anderson 3. Thank you for this staff, administrators, for the teachers, for these kids, God. Help us to apply this to your kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Next item on the agenda is the actual consent or the approval of the agenda. I trust everyone had an opportunity to look over it. Is there any questions, concerns?
I move to be approved.
I have a motion from Mr.
Second.
Watt to approve as presented, and a second from Mr. Balknight. Any discussion? None? All in favor? Unanimous. And again, we have the approval of the August 12th, 2024 meetings that was in your packet. Everyone should have had an opportunity to look over. I'll entertain a motion to.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion from Mr. Holbrook to approve as presented.
Second.
Second from Ms. Arnold. Any discussion? None? All in favor? Unanimous. And then we have the August the 26th meeting minutes as well.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion from Mr. Balknight, a second from Mr. Watt. Any discussion? All in favor? Fantastic. Now we get on to the really best part of this is the commendations.
All right. It always makes me happy when we have a room full of parents and students here. And especially tonight, because the first group we're going to honor are some perfect SC Ready scores. And in a few minutes, I'm going to invite you to stay for the whole meeting if you want to. But in case you decide not to, let me kind of give you the heads up that one thing we're going to talk about tonight is our school rankings and the fact that Anderson School District 3 is ranked 5th in the state of South Carolina. And all of our schools are ranked very high. And one reason we're ranked very high is because we have students like yours who score perfect scores on SC Ready. And all of these scores happen to be on SC Ready Math. And so at this time, I'll call the students up, and Mr. Owens will give them a certificate. There's also a letter from State Superintendent Ellen Weaver. And don't miss what's on back of the thing. It's a Amazon gift card. Okay, it's for the students. Parents or older siblings is for the students. So make sure you take a look at that. So we will start with Joseph Burton from Ive Elementary, and Mr. Powell, if you would like to come up with him. Of course.
I like that.
Yeah. We think, we especially want you all here, so okay, the next group are all from Star Elementary. So this time I'll ask Miss Hatcher and Miss Sykes to come on up from Star Elementary as we recognize these. We will start with Jackson Browning. Okay, and Jackson, if you'll stay, we're going to get a group picture of the Star students in just a second. Jocelyn Hayes. Kennedy Jansen. Eliza K. Long. And Cameron Saxon. Okay, and y'all stay up and we're going to get in the picture with you, but I failed to say, I told a couple of parents this, but the letter enclosed is from Ellen Weaver, and I think it says 1,800 students statewide had perfect scores, so they're in an elite group to have a perfect score on SC Ready. So let's give them a round of applause. All right, the next group we want to honor are our national champion sporting clays group. And they're not just one-time national champions or two-time national champions, they're three-time national champions. And so I have to tell you, I've become very fond of these guys. And in fact, I knew they were competing this summer, and I was kind of following them on Facebook, and Kim must have not been there, because usually Kim will keep me updated on text. And so I get a text from Miss Davis, and she's like, Abby Busby wants your phone number. Can I give it to her? And I said, as long as she's about to tell me they won, then you can. And then they sent me this great video that I couldn't find, or I was going to show it tonight. But we're excited for them. And, you know, the challenge now is you've got 3, you've got 1 more year. So, but, and we're also thankful for their coaches, Rick Dodgens and Philip Martin, and Abby, I know you're always there, and Kim, you're always there. We couldn't do this without any of y'all. And so at this time, I'll call them up. Mr. Quade Busby. Jed Dodgens. And Maddox Martin.
Let's don't forget about Lester Brock. He's the one that got this thing started. He was the man.
They are,
Yeah.
I think that deserves a round of applause. You know, all of this that we do, everything's about opportunities for children, from academics to extracurriculars. It's just helping them be the best that they can be. And we're all in this together. So I thank you, parents, for supporting us, grandparents, for supporting us, teachers, and all of our staff, because we have wonderful families in our school district. We have wonderful employees, and this is just a small segment. So thank you for being here. At this time, you are invited to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if you would like to exit, this would be an appropriate time. That's fine. That's fine.
Thank you. Yes, send me the score.
Signed up for this evening, can we jump right into the reports? First thing on the reports is going to be Mr. Moore. Tell us about the general fund.
All right, thank you, sir. So, taking a look at our general fund performance through the end of August, our expenditures exceeded our revenues by $562,662. As we mentioned last month, this will start a string of months where we're starting to see those expenditures outpacing the revenues, at least until the property tax collections start coming in. So I would expect to see us in the negative on this report, at least until January. So that would be expected as we move forward. For the most part, things in general fund are trending right along as we expected to be. One major difference that we'd see this year as opposed to prior years is in our instructional software purchases. In the past couple of years, we've been able to utilize ESSER funds to help pay for those costs, but now with those funds sunsetting on us, those costs are getting put back into the general fund and paid out of those budgets. So this point in the year, we're going to see a difference there, which is going to reflect in a larger deficit at this point in the year. So really, I think going forward, where we're at now, that 500, 550 probably is a more realistic range to expect as opposed to about the 350 to 450 range that we've seen in the past couple of years, just because we've had those other funds available to offset some of those general fund budgets. The only other thing really of note, something that we're keeping an eye on is utility costs, specifically electricity costs. Power bills a little bit higher than what we've seen comparing to last year. That's reflected in the supplies accounts there. Energy is coded as supply there, but mainly at Crescent High School. But we've had a lot going on in that building over the course of the summer with programs going on, construction projects, a lot of people in and out of the building. So we're gonna keep a close eye on that and making sure that things kind of regress back to where we expect to see them. But other than those two things sticking out right now, early in the year, we're about where we expect to be. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just right quick, was there a rate change or something there?
I think there was, yeah, but the usage was up for one of the months during the summertime, and I think it was directly tied to that. But since then, the usage has come back down to where we expect it to be, and that's something we're just continue to monitor month by month as those bills come in. So.
One also.
Yes.
How many meters do we have, or is that just all one, or we got several?
We got several. I don't know how many. Yeah, it's a handful.
Some of that could, if I can interject,
Yeah,
some of that could
absolutely.
be attributed to all those new units being installed, and they ran them constantly, cut them down low to check for pressure, check for any leaks or anything like that. So we did expect there to be an increase in use of kilowatt hours, but this is substantial enough to where we're gonna be checking individual meters.
You know, just make sure all of them are the updated meters, because I had one on my shop, that's why I asked. And my shop was trying to get as much as my house, and I never was in it that much. Come to find out, it was cha-chinging them some money. I don't know what was going on with it, but anyhow, they come and changed it, and it went back down to normal, so.
Right.
Maybe we'll
From 147 to 347.
Any other general fund?
Anything else for the general fund?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. You
Yes, sir.
mentioned, the instructional software. Which software, is that for all levels, elementary, middle, and high school?
It's for all levels. So the more expensive ones that are driving that, so at the elementary level, that's your Reading Horizons is what's getting used there, and IXL. At the middle school, they have IXLs across all schools in the district, and then iReady at the middle school as well. And then we have some other costs that we end up getting reimbursed for, some formative assessments through NWEA that comes in later in the year. They'll offset some of those costs, but for right now, that's getting floated in the general fund until those funds come in. And that's usually the amount of like $15,000-$16,000 that'll offset that, but that won't come until later. But those are the key software programs that are driving that cost right now.
Okay, no progress learning or anything for credit recovery?
Those, I have to pull that one in particular, but those are the larger ones, the more expensive ones that are driving that cost.
Would Edgenuity be in that, Matthew?
Edgenuity, we did have enough funds in ESSER to pay for that for one more year.
Okay, that's what we're using for credit recovery.
Okay, I know those can be expensive, that's what I was asking.
Right.
I have one more if everybody else is through. Any other questions? I was anticipating a request to reduce our general fund balance. Is that going to be in this presentation, this part? Are we going to be discussing that at some point later this evening?
Yes, that's in the action items.
Okay.
Yes, sir. All right. Any other general fund questions? All right, I'll move along. Sales tax collection. So we just got that allocation to us this morning. And it came in at the amount of $267,067.69. Let me get that. To date, that is the sixth largest collection, so it continues to perform well for us. And so it looks like we've kind of, over the past year or so, a little more, we've kind of settled into a consistent range to expect of these collections coming in, that 250, 260, even and maybe a little bit higher on some months, but for the most part, it's become a little more predictable, a little more consistent, which is helpful as we plan the next phase of use of sales tax dollars. So it's coming in, and so this collection reflects our June spending. So next month, we've had conversations, curious to see if our concert here in Anderson will result in a little bit of a spike. So we'll be on the lookout for that. So I knew the crowd it drew should lead to something. So we'll be interested to see if we see it reflected here. But again, that sales tax funds coming along well for us.
Fantastic. Any questions regarding the sales tax? Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the operations report. Dr. David Nixon.
Mentioned the closeout of that HVAC project, all those units are installed. We had our OSF inspections to the Office of School Facilities came on September the 3rd, did their final walkthrough, so having our verbal certificate of occupancy, we now have an official certificate of occupancy, so that closes that project out and actually signed the invoice for Dyken to be paid today. So, good project, and it was real interesting. I'd like to share this with the board. We were in a classroom with the OSF inspectors and the fire marshal, and one of the teachers came over, and I think she assumed that the OSF inspector was the person that worked on the project, and she said, "I'd just like to thank you. It's so much quieter and easier to teach and more comfortable in our classroom than it's ever been in here." So I thought that was a great testament to hear how something like a project like that with the use of ESSER funds has really impacted instruction. So happy to hear that kind of feedback. Safety and security, whenever I submitted this presentation to you last week, we had just submitted our Model Safe Schools checklist submission. If y'all remember a couple of years ago, Act 256, requirements of the board adopting that policy. Each year by September 1st, for us to receive drawdown money, we have to submit that in its entirety to the Office of Safe Schools. So that link will take you to that actual submission and the information that was submitted. There were no issues that we had to find, that we were found that we needed to verify, rectify, or anything like that, so I'm very proud of that submission. I want to remind you again, I think I mentioned it at the last board meeting, Anderson 3, our emergency personnel tours, they're starting at 9 o'clock on September the 13th. Would invite any board member that would like to participate. We'll go around to every school. Emergency personnel from across Anderson County will be there. We've never had an opportunity for them to come through that they've not provided some type of feedback that we've taken and implemented change in our buildings to make our buildings safer. So if you guys are available, we'd love to have you come out, and any changes that we make will be available to you in the October board meeting as well. So there will be information shared from that meeting, the outcome of that meeting. Had an opportunity for Robert McCullough, who is with the Office of Safe Schools. He came and did a facility inspection. Every year we've invited him to come, and he set up a tour of all of our schools. He visited every location, was very complimentary. In fact, his follow-up email and his information that he sent back to us, he was very, very excited to see some of the fencing and security fencing that we had installed, and this was a comment that he made. I'll read it to you. Making schools safe is number one priority, and you and your district are leading the way. As I travel around the state, I'm always happy to find a district that is squared away and very tight on security. So he's very complimentary of our schools and our administrators and the folks that he went around and spoke to individuals and asked individuals questions, and he was very happy with their responses. So very happy with that inspection, and really he had no action items for us to address. And then finally, the Act 256, the document that you saw 2 years ago. Anytime that changes are made, I need to present that to the board and make it public knowledge as well. The changes that were made were the new fire marshal for our area, so I had to update that document. That change is reflected in there, and that link will take you to the updated document. Anybody have any questions about any of those items? To put on your radar, our Federal Program Planning Committee meeting is November the 19th. There will be a virtual option as well as a face-to-face option. Just wanted to put that on your calendars ahead of time. I would love for you guys to participate. There's over $1 million that we receive from the federal government, and input from the community and from our board is very important to us. And again, you'll have another invite in our October meeting with an official letter, and you'll also receive the minutes and the presentation from that meeting. In addition to that, we post the minutes and the meeting and the video of the meeting on our webpage for the public to be able to look at it, and we have a suggestion box on our federal programs page, so anybody at any time can provide input. Another opportunity for feedback and input, that date's wrong. I updated that date and it didn't reflect. It's October the 8th, our Career and Technology Education Fall Advisory Council meeting. It'll be a working lunch. Anybody that would like to attend, there's a virtual option to that as well. So all of our CTE money that we receive as a district and the programs that we work with, we have our advisory council meeting where we cover our district level information that we need to cover, and then each person that attends that meeting breaks up and they go into their individual department. So ag will be represented, business will be represented, and you go back and provide input to those programs as well.
Any questions for Dr. Nixon? Fantastic. We're moving right along here. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Ms. Hipp?
Okay, I want to start with just our enrollment data. I pull it this time every year and just kind of watch the trends as they go across. And what you'll see is that Flat Rock is basically at an all-time high, 430. They're definitely growing, and we had some conversations with the community meetings a couple weeks ago about how much space do we have in our schools. Well, there's not a lot of room at Flat Rock. Ive Elementary they're more or less steady. They're our school that we do have a little bit of room in, but there again, their enrollment's a little down, but if you watch that bottom line with that one, they've been in the higher 300s, close to 400 for a while. And then, of course, Star Elementary, again, is at an all-time high for the last 6 or 7 years at 525. And you'll notice that K-5 number this year at 96. Last year, that was at 62. And really, 62 was a little low, but 96 is really high for them. If you follow that average, they average about 72 in K-5. And so to see 96 there, that number will probably carry through. So, again, Star Elementary is more or less full. Would you agree, Ms. Hatcher? So it's a good problem to have, but it's also a problem we're going to have to address at some point. So, you flip on over to Star Iva and Crescent, and Star Iva has been a little bit larger than normal for the last few years, and they're back around. Really, Star Iva has been trending about 200 per class, and so they're a little up. You notice in 22 they were probably at an all-time high at 668. Of course, some of those students have translated into Crescent now. Crescent's at all-time high at 826, and they start the year a little bit higher, but by the time people come and go, 826 is where they've settled in, and usually last year they settled in at 824. But you go back to 2019, more or less there's 100 more students at Crescent High School. Thankfully for AIT, Dr. Estes is with us today. We've got a space to send more of those students, so that helps with that population there. Not only are they getting more opportunities, but it's helping us with space in our buildings. So, our general enrollment is starting to tick up a little bit, and we did this year, as I've told you, cut back on the number of out-of-district students we accepted because we knew our true enrollment numbers coming from our district zones were up. And so this growth is really reflecting students in our district for the most part. Any questions?
I got a couple if I could. So Iva was 430. You said that was capacity. Stars 525.
Flat Rock's 430.
Flat Rock's 430.
And when I say capacity, now understand too, we try to keep our class size small.
Oh, I understand that.
So
Yes,
you could
yes.
put a few more kids in each class, but then it's going to start, and let me say, small class size in K1 and 2 and 3, when you get to 4 and 5, you're really at 24, 25, which we don't want to make those classes any bigger than they are. So there's a little space there.
So Iva at 386, what would you say, 400? What would be the number there?
I think Iva could probably go, just a guess now, Trip, is to maybe 425 because their class size is the smallest in the district. And so where Star Elementary might have 17 in a first grade class, Iva might have 14 in a first grade class right now.
And then Star at 525. So the reason why I even ask those questions is there some wiggle room between the lines?
Well, that would be one possibility, is redraw some lines.
That was the reason why I was asking that.
Now, everybody loves that possibility. Let me just say that.
I can understand that, but that's one reason why I wanted to ask the question right here with all of us here.
Right.
So that was my thinking on that.
Right. And we're not to the point that we need to have that conversation yet, but that is one place to look,
Okay.
especially if Iva continues to be down in comparison to the others. Then I would suggest we start, if we look at redrawing lines, start when students are in K5, K4, and let it build that way so that they're not changing schools midstream.
Do you remember where we were before we built Flat Rock? At Iva and Star, I know Star, we had all those portables all over the place. So I know we were over capacity, but
Were we up about 700 at Star?
yeah, it was a bunch.
It was,
I can't remember that number, but I mean, we had several portables that we were utilizing at that time.
let me see if I can find you some
But I
true
mean,
numbers.
Iva, that
That's-
was why we decided, because we knew we couldn't go anywhere, couldn't put any more at Iva. And we didn't have nowhere else to put a mobile home at Star, so
Right.
we had to do something.
Right, so I'll try to get you a true number there. I'll go back, because it's hard to believe Flat Rock is 17 years old, I think, or maybe 18. So yeah, it doesn't seem like it, but, so I'll find you a true number.
On the board 10 years when we built.
Ms. Hip, on the Star Iva Middle School, I see in 22, they were 668. Is that, you said that was just kind of,
That was kind of anomaly for 3 years. It was strange that they held so high, because I think you go to the that year in sixth grade, 209 was lower compared to the others, but I think the eighth grade class they sent to the high school that year was still around 230. So to have three classes that big in a row at Star Iva, it has not happened. And it has started to trend back the other way, as you can tell. So that definitely was a little bit of an anomaly.
Okay, so usually stay around 6:30, is that?
Yeah, yeah, 6:30 I think is about the max, because you're thinking 210 per class is really, and of course, if some of this growth from especially Star and Flat Rock, as it trickles up, then I think we're going to see that number to continue to tick up, because both of those schools, you look at, Flat Rock's picked up 30 kids, and Star, what is it? I've looked at it so much, but I know they're 25 plus 18, 43, somebody said. So 33, 43. So, yeah, that number as it comes in will continue to push it up.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding the enrollment? Fantastic. We go- The district school rankings.
All right, I am very proud to show you these tonight. You see in the yellow column there, and I like to show trend data, and that's why you see it go back to 2012-13, when the district was number 31, and we've progressively grown. And of course, last year we dropped to number 6, and you're never happy when you drop, even to number 6. But we're back to number 5, and that puts us in the top 6% of school districts in South Carolina. Of course, School Digger rankings are based on your test scores. And what I like about School Digger is that it looks at the same data every year. So you're looking at a valid, reliable measure in your comparisons. You look at Crescent High School, number 29, top 12%. That's the highest they've ever been. Star Elementary School, 52. That's the highest they've ever been. They've always been up there, but that's the highest they've been. Iva lost a few spots this year, but if you look at Iva, they had actually got their best ranking last year, and then we gave up some ground, and we're going to go back and find that ground. And the same with Flat Rock. Flat Rock gave up some ground this year. Even though they both still have some very good test scores, you can look at specific areas, and that's what I'm doing now with the schools, is kind of pulling their trend data and saying, let's pinpoint really what hurts you here. And typically it is one grade level in each one of them. So, and you say hurts you, a lot of people would love to have our test scores. And I'll tell you, you look at the bottom there where I show you the top 20 ranked schools in South Carolina, and you see York 2 there, Clover. I was at the superintendent's meeting last year, and the superintendent from York 2 came to me and she said, Kathy, I'm so impressed with your test scores. I'm benchmarking against you as one of them I benchmark against. And that'll preach. Because you know what their poverty rating is in York 2? Almost 0. You know what ours is? 76, 77. So, and Anderson 1 has always been complimentary too, because they do their winners and losers list, and when they're tracking against us, comparing against us, that says something about what we're doing. So I'm very proud of all of our schools. All of them we can look at and be proud of what they're doing. So we're just going to continue to get better.
Well, fantastic. Any questions?
Also, let me too point out, Star Iva moved back up in their rankings quite a bit to go back to that 62, because if you track their line, it's been up and down some, but it's really gotten closer to where they were in 12, 13. So I think that trend, if we can keep it going, we'll see good movement there.
Well, I want to say thank you, and thank you to you and the rest of my board here, the rest of this board, for the work that y'all have done to get us here where we're at. Your staff, y'all done a good job. We're in a really, really good spot. I appreciate all the effort that has gone forth, and I'm leaving it up to someone else to make sure that the trend continues, don't mess it up. I know where you live. But I'm very happy where your staff has brought us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great data.
We have a great staff. We're a great team.
We can jump right on to this item number 3 under the superintendent's report, the summer reading camp.
Good evening. I'm excited to share a little bit about our summer camp this year and also about letters, year 2. So we'll start with summer camp. I think this was my 8th year doing summer camp, and just a great group of teachers, great group of students, and so you'll see lots of pictures, and I'll share a little bit more as we go. Click down. Okay. So just to tell you a little bit about who all attended summer camp and the teachers that worked it. So we have really 2 camps going during this time. We have our K-4 camp. So with that, we have Miss Boggs and Amber Hall. They're our teachers. And then we had Miss Angie Mattress, and we had Jordan Dutton that helped assist in those classrooms. Jordan Dutton she filled in for activities. She was an assistant. She helped all over during camp. But they are just a great group to work with. We served about 35 students. 20 per class is our max, and so we almost hit that number. But the students, they did great. The teachers were great to work with, and it was just a really smooth camp. We also had our summer reading camp going during this time. We went ahead and were a little bit more proactive with this. This year, we will have to serve the first grade group. However, last summer, we did have Carly Herring that was also willing to work, so she was a new one on board, and she did a fantastic job, but she picked up our first grade group. And then we had Erica Smith teaching our second grade group, and Darla Moore was our third grade teacher. And several of those teachers, they've either filled in or they have worked in the previous camps, and they are just really great to work with. Those students make a quick connection with the teachers, and really it's really a dream to kind of watch that all fall in place in such a short amount of time. Stephanie Harbert and Ariel Davis, they helped fill in while I was at SCASA, and then 1 week of vacation. So I always like to give them a shout out because they keep camp just moving very smoothly while I'm gone. Our related arts teacher, we had Jordan Dutton. She taught stream, she did some music, art, and our guidance lessons. So during that time, our teachers can plan. So we do keep this a very structured day for our students and our teachers, and she does a great job with that. We also had our school resource officers, Officer Gerard, and then also Officer Phillips was with us during summer camp. And then our school custodians, we had Rodney Hanna, Calvin Carey, and Homer Butler, our custodians. So just a great group to work with that made a really smooth camp. And you can see some of the pictures. Like I said, lots of smiles, and I will say this summer, I don't think that we had any major discipline issues. Like, it was just very smooth. The students were excited to be there and willing to learn and work hard. So this year, our partnerships, we continued with United Way. In the past, they have donated books for our students. They did that again this year. And then they also provided a snack and ice cream party for our students. You can see in one of the pictures at the top, they dressed up like Alice in Wonderland, and they handed out snacks, and that was the book that the students received. And then also, we partnered this year with the YMCA for Camp IROC, and that was a fun after-school program for our 1st through 3rd grade students. And it was free for all students, and it went from 2:30 to 4:30. And they did a great job planning fun, hands-on activities. They would take them out. There were some young male role models that were there with the students that our boys really enjoyed getting to know. And so they would go out there and play football with them, but then they really made that connection with a lot of our students that needed that role model or that male figure in their life. So that was just a great camp, and very appreciative of their support and their work during this time. They helped, at the end of camp on the last day, they did a celebration and fun day that they helped provide and fund for us. So they brought water slides, we had a bouncy house, and then also they provided pizza for all of our students. So you can see some of those pictures there. The students had a great time. And our data for summer reading camp, so I put both of them up here for K4. They were observed on day 3 of camp. So they had just really, started camp, and Ms. Compton from the State Department, she was very positive with her feedback. She was really she kept bragging on how quickly the teachers had really had that routine and had built that relationship, because during this time, we have teachers that, we have students from all over the district, and so this may not be their teacher, it may not be their home school, but our teachers did a great job, like I said, just really building that relationship and establishing the routine. So a lot of learning could take place during that short amount of time. And so Ms. Compton, she said that they met all areas, and of course, she was very, very positive with her feedback and on our teachers especially. And then our summer camp, we were observed by Ms. Kim Camp. She's from the State Department, and they received all fours in every area when she uses a very specific monitoring tool from the State Department where she's looking at several areas. And so they received fours in all areas, and all of our students were able to either maintain or show growth through either MAP testing or the core phonics. And so those are two assessments that we use with the first through third graders. And so just another great way, like I said, during that short amount of time to really see student growth and engagement. Does anybody have any questions about summer camp before moving into letters?
Heard
Questions?
a lot of good things about it, great.
I love summer camp. It's one of my favorite things to lead. I'm a little sad about turning it over, but
It's gonna,
but I do know it'll be in great hands next year. I think Ariel Davis will be running that, and she has filled in for me a lot, and so I know she'll do a great job. But it is just a fun time to get to work with several students across the district. Oops, sorry, wrong way. Okay, letters year 2. So we are excited to get started with year 2 of letters. Our cohorts are already started. We received so much feedback, positive feedback from our teachers from year 1. And so I'm going to go over, a little bit about our framework from last year, because we did find it to be very successful. And so that is how we're going to continue with year 2. So it starts with the support from the top, from Ms. Hipp, from the board members. From the very beginning, I feel like our teachers knew that this was an initiative that we really were focused on for the next 2 years, and dedicating that time and energy towards it. And we really wanted to see the outcome, not just in 2 years, but where does it take us from here? And so it started with Ms. Hipp rolling that information out to our district leaders and principals. And then we have our leaders. We'll talk more about that, but that is our assistant principals and reading coaches. And then, of course, the teachers. They're such a vital part of this. They are the ones that are in the classroom making the magic happen every day. And so you see a couple of pictures. Those are just some engaging hands-on activities that took place during letters training with our teachers. We try to make this time very fun and engaging for them, and really focus on not only the learning, but also our student data and how are we making that learning take place in our classroom, and what is the data telling us. And so just within last year, while we were learning and while we were in year 1 of letters, we really started with some instructional shifts taking place in year 1. Because as we were learning, teachers were coming to us asking, is there a way that we could be, assessing in a different way to give us more, valid information about our students and where their deficits are. And so these are just a few of our shifts that have taken place over the last couple of years. We've been using Reading Horizons and Heggerty, but I feel like we went from using a curriculum to really understanding how to use that curriculum to drive our instruction and meet our students' needs. Some of our assessments, we shifted from using Fontes and Pinnell to our core phonics and PASS test. That is a very specific phonics test that allows our teachers to see exactly where those deficits are so that we can fill those gaps a lot quicker. So the best way to explain it, in the past, we were looking at a reading level and trying to place these students in intervention groups, and we were hoping that what we were doing was going to be successful. Now we see where those deficits are, and we know what we're using. We're filling those gaps a lot quicker. And it's not a guessing game. It's very much like we can diagnose the problem, and now we can use our intervention, which has moved from LLI to UFLI. That's the curriculum we're using for intervention. And we can pinpoint, for example, if a student's struggling with long vowels, we know exactly where to go in that curriculum to fill that gap and to move forward with their learning. And then our small groups have shifted from guided reading to really utilizing Reading Horizons, the data that we're getting day to day, so that we're able to move those groups and move those readers a lot quicker. And so our implementation last year was we met as a leadership team. So I met with our reading coaches and our assistant principals, and we met twice a month. And we would discuss, so we were trying to be a couple weeks ahead of the learning to discuss what we had learned and what we really wanted our teachers to take away from those sessions. And then each school would look at their data, and they would create their own presentation based on what their students and their school needs were. And so they would meet with their teachers, and we did it during grade level meetings, so it was a small group of teachers. Again, we could really pinpoint first grade. That meeting looked a lot different than fifth grade. But that just allowed us to really meet our students and our teachers' needs and where they were at. You can see like our calendar there, just an example of how it's very clear from the beginning. Our teachers already have the dates that we're meeting for the entire year. Of course, they're tentative. We know things come up, but we go ahead and we push that out so that teachers know what's coming up. And then our implementation, teachers would have, if we said homework, it was strategies that they would take back to the classroom and try with their students. And the next time they would come back and share what, was it successful? Was it effective? And really that's where we started seeing so many things like our assessments changing and things like that, because teachers were seeing how what they were practicing was really being effective in the classroom. So this is the model that we'll continue to use this year. We did receive a lot of positive feedback from our teachers last year. They liked how we were breaking down the sessions. So we're going to continue that for year two. So our cohort one is the year two teachers. They will be completing the training this year. They'll work again with their assistant principals and their reading coaches in the school. They have 4 PD days. We've already had one of those, so we have 3 left. And then we also have another cohort two, that's 6 A3 employees that are beginning year one. And so we had several of those that were at Flat Rock, and I think one from Iva Elementary. And what we decided to do is Carly Heron, she is going to lead that cohort, and so she will work with that cohort twice a month to complete year one. So just a lot of great things going on. I'm so appreciative for this training, for the board, for Ms. Hip, for your support, because we are seeing great things take place in the classroom, and I think our data, a lot of that, I mean, it supports like the learning that's taking place. So I'm excited to see where year two takes us and to see where we go from here.
Fantastic. Well, for one, I've heard good things about it. I've heard it's not easy.
It's not, it is time consuming.
It is not easy at all, but the feedback I'm getting is worth it. So any questions or any other comments?
Just thank you. Thank you for helping to roll that out and supporting the teachers doing that.
Thank you. It's definitely been a blessing, so excited for year two.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
And if I could just commend Ashley and Laura Beth and the team. It's not easy, but I think they have organized it where it's as supportive and as easy as possible to our teachers. And Ashley and Ariel actually presented at I3 this summer, and they had a room full.
Yeah.
I think 78 people were in the room listening to them talk about Our Letters initiative, and they got phenomenal feedback, positive feedback. So
It is definitely something I feel like our leaders and that leadership team is very passionate about, because we're seeing the positive effects from it. So thank you.
Thank you. Right. Item number 7 is action items. Item A, under action items, is the Anderson County calendar. You want to speak on that?
yes, the committee has met, and I want to present to you and ask for approval of the calendar for 25-26. I think this one, I haven't heard of any controversial feedback as far as something people didn't like. They tend to love the week at Thanksgiving, and this still has it, and of course the couple weeks at Christmas, and we get out before June. So right after Memorial Day, we finish up that week, and so really, usually I come to you, and if there's any question about it from anybody, but I don't have any negative feedback to share, so I just asked if you will approve it.
I'll make a
Mr.
motion.
Chairman, I move we approve as presented.
I have a motion from Mr. Watt to approve as presented, a second from Mr. Holbrook. Any discussion? None. All in favor? It's unanimous. And who's going to speak on
Mr.
Item
Moore will
B.
speak on the next item.
So as we discussed last month, we'd be coming to you this month with this request. So, we come to you with a request to transfer $483,316.24 from the general fund to the district's building fund, for the FY 23-24 year. This transfer still maintains our goal of 25% fund balance in the general fund. And then it also sets aside that money to help us with any future building projects as they come about. And then also, as we discussed last month, can help provide us a layer of protection against any unfunded mandates with the attention fund balances are getting at the state level now. So transferring that and setting it aside will have us a little bit of a base there. As questions we had last month, if need be, money can always be transferred back into the general fund in the event of a shortfall, or if we need to put it back in the general fund to continue to maintain that 25% threshold once our budget gets passed next spring. That's something that can always be done with a vote as well to bring it back if need be. This money, of course, if you recall, this time last year during the request, we were left with $35,000 to be set aside without a specific project to be designated attached to it. So that amount is still sitting in there. So that $35,000 plus this requested transfer, if approved, will provide us with a total restricted building fund balance of $1,518,316.24. Are there any questions regarding this transfer?
I have a question.
Yes.
Have you worked with any numbers and on reducing that general fund balance to different percentages? And do you have any of that data on, like, for example, reducing it to 22%? What would that look like?
Yes, so I've asked several of my colleagues in surrounding districts, and I think the answers are varied. I mean, you can point to the GFOA I mentioned, it recommends 2 months fund balance. But then your auditors may say they want more than 25. So it can be all across the board. Given where we are and how we're doing, I feel comfortable leaving it at 25%. I don't see the need to reduce it now, where we stand. I mean, as we move on, my opinion may change, but I think 25 is a good, safe number. It's still very prudent, and which is what we're all about is being prudent with these funds. So I'd be hesitant to reduce it in the event that we felt like we needed to use every bit of that $1.5 million for a capital project, and then we have some sort of state budget cut. I'd like to leave it there 25 if I have to state my name on it.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
So
Mr. Baltnight.
just to clarify, we talked about this last time. You haven't gotten any feedback at a state level for the states looking at everybody's fund balance, what that's going to do. I know we can't predict the future.
Right.
That's impossible. But it just makes me very leery when they want to look at everybody's fund balance and a healthy district is going to get penalized against a district that can't handle their money correctly.
Right.
Just because we've been fiscally conservative, we've done it right. The word you just used was prudent.
Yes.
That's the only reason why I think we even entertaining this thought. What's your take on that?
So, I don't think Anderson 3 is one of the districts causing some of the questions at the state level. We had to submit a report to the legislators this past budget session, and that was shared with us. And there are some districts who were saving up for building a school, and they left in their general fund budget. So to a legislator, they see a district with a 50% fund balance, they take the perspective of why do they need this extra state funding if they're sitting on this cash. So doing this puts an earmark to it and communicates to them that this is not money we're sitting on. This is something we plan to use, and it's not to be used against us as a detriment. So there are a lot of other districts that are a higher percentage. So I think we're safe at 25% to kind of reinforce that in comparison to others. But as far as what's to come, I have no way of knowing. I mean, I know we just started this past month of submitting that monthly report of what our monthly fund balances are going to be. So I hope maybe to hear in the coming months to see how that's being used and how that may influence decisions.
I, for one, trust most of your judgment. You've proven things well in the past, but I share Mr. Baltnight's concern because in the past, District 3 has been very prudent, very wise, made wise decisions with their money. And when other districts fail, at the end, when it all shakes out, District 3 wind up sucking hind teeth when it come down when the funding was distributed.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, I think the first one that I remember getting left out on is the SRO funding. Anderson 3 made it a priority to put SROs in every single school. First year SRO funding, we didn't get any funding because we didn't have any schools without an SRO, and that funding was designated for those who did not have it. So I agree with you wholeheartedly with what you're saying, but I think 25% is not a high number comparative to most of the districts around the state. I think it's a good number.
If we decided to go with 22%, how hard would it be if we get the board to vote to give you so much to put back if we had emergency, where we had to put it back in?
Right. I mean, I don't think it's a difficult in terms of the mechanics, if you will.
Be safer
Right.
that way.
I mean, if the big concern is the unfunded mandates and protecting against that, then that could be a way to go.
Yeah.
Still got that crystal ball.
Yeah, really.
Any questions? Are there any concerns? I will even entertain a motion if someone so desires. If not, thank you very much. I saw some movement.
Do you need a motion to do this, right?
Yes.
Can I just interject one thing? And Matthew, correct me if I'm not thinking right. We need to move the excess from the general fund to an account. So
we need to do that.
even if you all want to have more discussion about changing the percentage, one approach that we could take is to go ahead and move it as written, and then we can come back at the next meeting and say we want to move it again to take it down to 22% or 23%, if that.
We do have time if the board wishes to reevaluate that percentage.
Well, the chair moves for you, the chair goes ahead and move for us to move the amount that you're requesting of that one, I believe it's the 1483 and some change, over to,
District building.
the building fund. Have a second from Mr. Watt. Is there any more discussion on that? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to speak on the appendix item real quick?
Yes, Dylan, can you cue that real quick? This video is about 2 minutes long, and I think the state board just passed the cell phone policy, and I'll be sending a version of that to the committee probably next week. There's one thing from the policy that came out that I might suggest we change for our policy, and so I'll bring it to you, and we probably want to do that in 2 readings because we already have a strong procedure we're following. But this is something that the State Department put out in support of that, so.
Hi, this is State Superintendent of Education, Ellen Weaver, and it's no secret that our students are struggling more than ever with digital distractions, things that impact their learning, their social life, and sadly, even their mental health. That's why I'm so excited about South Carolina's new Free to Focus initiative, which gets rid of cell phones during the school day to allow our students to be free to focus on their learning, free to focus on their safety, free to focus on their friends, and it allows our teachers the freedom to focus on instruction. Here in South Carolina, we are proud to be leading the way in creating an environment where all of our students can focus on their future. If you want to learn more about this important initiative, please visit ed.sc.gov/free to focus.
And like I say, I'll submit a policy to our committee probably next week.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session to discuss contractual matters
Make a motion.
and personnel matters, and action is necessary on both. We have a motion from Mr. Balknight to do so. Second from Mr. Holbrook. Any questions? All in favor? Fantastic. It's unanimous again. Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank y'all for coming here.